Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to on this windy week?
Well, the Women's Ashes started.
Right.
And they played the first 2020 and then the other two were rained out.
Mm-hmm.
So those didn't happen. And then there's a test starting tomorrow and also Australian Open stuff happening tomorrow. Dylan Alcott trying to win a 16th and final Grand Slam title and an 8th Australian Open in a row. I made fudge.
You did.
And
my, what mighty fudge it was.
It was fudge.
It was good.
Yep. So that was my very early Sunday morning.
I think I'll make fudge.
Well,
if only we had the ingredients. Oh, here's some I prepared earlier.
I had the ingredients and then didn't do anything with them for a while, and then I did. And that was the end of that.
Yes.
Anything else going on?
So have they been televising the women's cricket?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, the Women's Ashes have been televised on free-to-air, which is a marked difference from what Nine chose to do with the 2020 World Cup that's coming up, where they have chosen to broadcast the men's.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much backlash over that decision to only broadcast the men's. KO, Foxtel's sports-specific streaming service, have since said that they will broadcast the women's for free under their KO freebies. I'm still not going to watch it because I'm not going to support that service or the company that runs it.
No. So, anything else you've been up to?
I feel like there was something, but I can't remember what it was, and I've been trying to remember for the past however long. It's not worked out.
No.
Schlagden Star again on Saturday, another one very close to the previous one, but looking like probably the last one for a little while.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully I'll be able to wrest back some semblance of control over my sleep schedule.
Yeah, right.
Which is to say that I will continue to get up sometime between 11 and 1.
Yes. I got stabbed in the arm.
You got stabbed in the arm?
Yes.
Wow.
I did. Yes, I got my booster jab, which has been a bit of a drama getting hold of. Finally settling on a place 3 bus rides away, beginning of February. And then out of the blue, Facebook announced that the government-run facility had a whole heap of spaces. So I contacted them and they didn't have any previously, but suddenly this Facebook thing came up and...
Right.
I shall grab one of those. So it knocked a week off waiting.
And I am told that you are not the Australian of the Year.
No, I was very disappointed in that. I'd been waiting for the phone call, which I wouldn't have answered because I wouldn't have recognised the number and I don't yet. Yes, but I am not Australian of the Year.
Right.
That's the way it is. Took some photos whilst I was in town, went for a bit of a wander, a bit of a walk. Yeah, it was good. Other than that, I do have a public apology to make.
Right.
Which I will use this forum for because it involves 2 of our dear listeners. Dear listener Lee entrusted in me a very important article to deliver to dear listener Helen. And I, in all the things that were going on at the time that I received said article, managed to bury it, which I discovered today, and I do deeply apologise to both dear listener Lee and dear listener Helen that I have failed in my Australia Post duties. That being said, it will probably reach dear listener Helen before it would have if dear listener Lee had mailed it. I think things are really bad mail-wise.
There's a bit of reorganisation going on around the place.
Is there?
Here, in the house.
Oh, here, yes.
Yes.
Yes, we're completely rearranging things and moving the deck chairs on the Titanic.
The boxed tree that had moved from the left to the right of the room has moved back to the left of the room and been joined by a bench and a cushion.
Yes.
So that's a development. And over in the kitchen, the table has rotated some 90 degrees.
Yeah. It's all to do with trying to make do with the space we've got. For a household of 8, it's a fairly small space. We're just trying to make things a little more usable. Whether that bench stays where it is, who is to say?
I'm so greedy taking up a whole room.
Yes, you are. Which is why we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But, yes.
But
you know the cubby house out the back? I've just put your nameplate on the front door of that, and an extension cord. That's the real reason why we put the Wi-Fi extenders around the place. So you should be able to pick up Wi-Fi out there.
All this being said, I don't have a lot of floor space in that room.
You poor soul.
And it does get very warm.
Yes.
Not these last couple of days, but it does get very warm.
Yeah. I did mention earlier wind. I do apologise for any wind noises. Again, the positioning of our deranged cat studio seating arrangements are such that, yes, we have a great view of the television, but the microphones have a great acoustic view of a somewhat windswept wood heater fireplace. And if the wind hits the top of the chimney at a certain angle, then you get wonderful noises. So I do apologise for that.
And if a bird hits the chimney at a certain angle, you get even more wonderful noises.
Yes, it hasn't, touch wood, happened too recently, but yes, birds do plummet down into the firebox, usually unscathed, but then I have to move everything and open windows and hopefully...
And eject a cat.
And eject a cat, yes. Anyway, we digress. We have a film to watch.
We do.
What are we watching today?
We are watching Shoot to Kill.
Yes.
This happens every time. I don't know.
No. I paused because I had it all ready as far as the name of the film that I watched when I originally watched it.
Deadly Pursuit.
Deadly Pursuit. Yes. Ostensibly, this is a follow-on from last week's movie, it being a sort of a retrospective of Sidney Poitier's finest films, of which these are possibly not his finest examples. That is based on a very vague recollection of this film that does have a bit of background as to why I managed to, or attempted to track this down so that we could watch it. Okay, so we are reflecting on Sidney Poitier as an actor, but I think this is possibly only the second of his films that I had seen at the time that it came out in 1988. I'd watched To Sir With Love in grade 9 in high school as a school English class. So I was familiar with him in that, but that came out in possibly the late 60s, and I would have seen it in 83, and then there was this big delay until 1988. Now, if I did see it at the cinema, and certain parties, if they do their maths correctly, would know that I was serving a Mormon mission in 1988, and one of the strict guidelines, of which there were many, to keep us all under control and doing what we're supposed to do was that we weren't to go to the pictures.
Right. So
And
that's gone well.
that went well. Look, it was still very early on in my mission, and the guy that I was with at that particular time, lovely guy, absolutely wonderful, but as far as rules were concerned, and yeah, there's stuck with the dilemma of, right, there are two rules that I can follow here, or break. I either go to the pictures with him and cross various boundaries that we weren't supposed to cross, to get there and meet up with the previous guy that he had been with. They'd arranged it on the phone, and so off we went, crossed all these boundaries, and me fretting like anything that, we're going to get caught to see this film. Or I could have broken possibly a much worse rule, and that was to not be with your companion.
Right.
So I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. So this was a late night session, and we were incognito and went to see this film. So I have a lot of guilt attached to this film, and perhaps watching this today will help me to exercise those ghosts and see how much I actually remember of it, whilst I was constantly looking over my shoulder thinking, we're going to get caught. So, what is Shoot to Kill or Deadly Pursuit all about?
Sidney Poitier, one of film's most distinguished and acclaimed actors, returns to the screen after a decade-long absence in this must-see, action-filled thriller. When a cunning murderer vanishes into the rugged mountains of the Pacific Northwest, pursuing FBI agent Warren Stanton must exchange familiar city streets for unknown wilderness trails. Completely out of his element, Stanton is forced to enlist the aid of expert tracker Jonathan Knox. It's a turbulent yet vital relationship they must maintain in order to survive, and one that becomes increasingly desperate when Knox's girlfriend Sarah becomes the killer's latest hostage.
So, that's what we're in for. Thomas is going to open up the case, he's going to take the disc out of the case, he's going to put it in the machine, we're going to watch this, and then we're going to come back and talk about it, so we'll catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B.
You mongrel. So, what did you think?
Yeah, that was alright.
It was alright.
Yeah. There have been more intriguing thrillers.
Yes.
There have been more cohesive buddy cop movies.
Yes.
But that worked.
Yeah, it's sort of a twist to the buddy cop movie, in that one of them wasn't a cop, and the idea of one or other of them being out of their natural environment, was fish out of water. That being said, and I'm getting straight into weird tangents, both of them should have been out of their element when they got to Canada. Especially being able to run around wielding guns.
Yeah.
The whole jurisdiction rulings and things like that, there is absolutely no way they would have been allowed to chase after the baddie once they'd crossed the border. But, you know...
This is no longer your problem. I know you desperately want it to be your problem, but it's no longer your problem.
Yeah. There was certainly a level of intensity throughout that I thought was fairly well maintained. Mm-hmm. Possibly once they got to Canada, it sort of went a bit skew-if and variable, and I think I was possibly thinking too much about the whole jurisdiction thing, but it possibly got a little silly then.
Vancouver playing Vancouver.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's very strange, Vancouver playing Vancouver. Vancouver usually plays everywhere else.
Yeah.
Except for Vancouver Water, which is played by...
The Bahamas.
So, just to clarify that little inside joke, there was an underwater scene, supposedly in very cold British Columbian waters, off the side of a ferry, but it appears that those underwater scenes were filmed in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Quite watching the credits roll, and then it says Bahamas unit, and all of them were underwater. So I'm thinking, good grief. Your turn. Say something.
Yeah.
Good. Say something intelligible.
I don't know how much I actually have to say. I definitely enjoyed the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It spends a lot of time in the woods
It does.
and on mountains.
With bears. What are we going to do? Throw him some food. We are the food.
A fish out of water's story isn't usually particularly balanced as far as how much time it spends in water as opposed to out of it.
Yep.
This a bit closer balanced,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
And that's partly because the top and tail segments that bookend it are reasonably long.
Yep. I found something very disturbing was the fact that I'd seen it once, 34 years ago, and the soundtrack has been haunting me all those 34 years, and I didn't know where it came from.
Right.
So I've had that. There is a motif that goes all the way through the soundtrack, and I instantly, oh my goodness, that is where it's from. Right. So it has stuck. What I had forgotten was the whole late 1980s synth drum. The very, very MacGyverish and of its time that ages it possibly more than anything else would have been the synth drums.
You've got to have your strings.
Yep. The saxophone.
You've got to have saxophone, and you've got to have synth drums. And congratulations, you're in the 80s.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yep. Yeah. I was really expecting that to not be as good as... I enjoyed it far more than I possibly should have. But I think that had a lot to do with Sidney Poitier. He basically carried the film. Tom Berenger, not so much.
He was all right.
Yeah. Kirstie Alley was good.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that she was in this.
The fisherman, a little flat.
What's really strange is, again, I'd only seen this once, but I couldn't remember out of that group which one it was.
Right.
And so I started suspecting the one that I think that I suspected the first time I saw it, who turned out not to be the one. If you can get your hands on it, it's a buddy cop / country woodsman / yeah, I don't think it's quite been done before or since quite so well. But Sidney Poitier, he carried it very much so.
Yeah. And then the director, Roger Spottiswoode, went on to make Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh.
Yeah. And Turner and Hooch.
Fair enough.
Is, you know, as
a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. An obscure choice and a completely selfish choice for today's viewing. It has a bizarrely special place in my heart now, and reminds me instantly of the crazy guy I was with at the time who broke plenty of these rules, but special time and special guy. Don't know where he is, don't know what he's doing these days. He was a guy from Idaho.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well, that was the film.
It was.
It was.
We might move on though.
The following segment is currently on fire. Have a nice day.
Lee, apparently Sneakers.
Hi,
was one
Lee.
of his favourite films.
Yes.
For a while.
Yep. I can fully understand that. I think if you're into the intrigue and computers and a perfect storm for that particular age.
And I'm looking for the other post. Do heal up, Helen.
Yes, do heal up, Helen. Dear listener, Helen has had an unfortunate accident and will therefore be laid up in a prime position to be able to listen to this podcast.
But not to walk with it.
Not to walk with it.
Not even with one sneaker.
No. Dear listener, Helen broke an ankle and is going into surgery as we speak.
Right.
Well, as you listen.
Right.
Or possibly just after as you listen.
Let's see, over on Discord,
Yes?
my tweet last week read, "This week on Cellulose Free, Thomas plays a disappointed Englandsman, Colin plays a very cold Ukrainian, and Ben Kingsley plays Ben Kingsley." That last one is not a compliment. And Antos Farashu also notes that we noted James Earl Jones playing the James Earl Jones government character.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Tobolowsky as the character actor Stephen Tobolowsky character, both of which are great.
Bing!
And Dan Aykroyd playing Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. But I think they get away with it more than Ben Kingsley does.
Yeah. He may be playing a conspiracy theorist, and that may be who he is, but he does play it very convincingly.
He does. Thank you, Hentu Osferatu.
And that, I think, might be it
I think it
this
might
week.
Be. Yep.
So we'll move on.
We shall.
Pick a film for next week, so we can go to bed. It's still your turn.
How can it be my turn? And I'm just going to go random this time.
Right.
I am. I've got this feeling that there was something that I had planned,
Uh-huh.
but can't remember what it was.
Welcome to 50% of episodes of this podcast. What was I thinking about?
Yeah, look, we're a well-oiled machine. We have lots of notes that we don't write down.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give the phone a shake, and it will select a film at random from my list of films that I want to revisit. Oh, hello. Excellent. Good.
Okay.
It's a film that I don't think you have seen.
Right.
You have not marked as you're wanting to watch.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to force it upon you.
Right.
Okay.
That's the premise of the show.
That's right. So buzz in when you think you've got it.
Uh-huh.
In this kinetic futuristic thriller from Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise plays John Anderton, the head of Washington's pre-crime bureau.
I have seen this.
Have you?
Yes, I have.
Ah,
I'm buzzing in.
okay.
This film is Minority Report.
It is indeed. Anyway, Tom's playing this guy,
Uh-huh.
an experienced for the head of Washington's pre-crime bureau, an experimental government agency that uses precognitive humans to predict murders.
Right.
Finding himself accused of a future homicide, Anderton goes on the run and tries to stay one step ahead of his jetpack-assisted colleagues and an ambitious federal agent, Colin Farrell. Played by Colin Farrell, yeah. Adapted from a short story by Philip K. Dick, Minority Report is one of Spielberg's most sheerly entertaining and deliriously imaginative movies. That's quite
Yeah.
that's quite flourishing in its description.
That's some marketing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by all rights, this probably should have been on my list as well.
Fair enough.
But you've got to it first,
Yes,
so...
it has been lots of years since I've seen this, so I'm quite looking forward. So long so that I think I'd forgotten that Steven Spielberg had anything to do with it. So, Minority Report next week. We hope you can join us, but until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
So long so that I think I'd forgotten that Steven Spielberg had anything to do with it. So that's what we're going to watch next week.
It is.
Minority Report. We hope that you can join us watching Minority Report, or not join us watching it, unless you
If you want to,
yeah,
go
you
ahead.
ring on the door and we'll get the fizzy out and collapse around you. You'll have to bring a mask though, and all right. We hope that you can join us on our list of love. So, Minority Report. Next week, we hope that you can join us. Oh, I'm stuck again.
Dear listener, we hope you can join us next week when we have a look at Minority Report.
But until then...
Catch you next time.
Well, hang on. Oh dear, this is even worse than before.
well, we almost got there, though.
We did. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Okay.